Hello, thanks for joining us for this Colorado Conversation. I'm Jeremy Hubbard. Who would have ever thought that a skydiving accident could be the best thing that ever happened to a person? Well, Jason Dennen might not have thought that before, but you think that now that it's happened. Jason's joining us here for this episode. One of my favorite recurring themes on Colorado Conversation is the idea of having a second chance in life, and comes in various forms. We've talked about former inmates who've gotten a second chance to sort of turn things around for themselves. I've never had a conversation quite like this, though, and so I'm excited about that. So, Jason, we're going to talk about this skydiving accident that happened in 2018 and how it changed everything in your life, nearly cost you your life, and really has sort of set the tone for everything that's come since then. So thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Excited to talk about it. And if you can, just take us back to that day in 2018. So you had done a bunch of skydives already. You jumped out of a plane more than 300 times.
Yeah.
So this was old hat, but something went wrong that day. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it was the third jump of the day. First two jumps went fine. Coming in for a landing on the third jump, everything is normal. Parachute's over my head. And 150 feet off the ground, all of a sudden a huge wind comes off the mountains, picks me up, slams me violently forward. Now I go from being able to land on a grass field that I've landed on hundreds of times before to going, I'm not sure if I'm going to make it onto this field because behind it is a fence and a row of airplane hangars.
Okay.
So you have about 5 seconds from that point at 150 feet, and you're counting down the seconds. I'm shaking up at first, and I'm looking up. I'm like, the parachute's still flying. That's great. And,
yeah.
and as you're coming in, I'm like, I'm not sure I'm going to land before that fence. And then with 1 second left, I said, there's no way I'm going to land before this fence. Fence hits me in the chest and the abdomen. It breaks immediately, and 10 feet behind it is an airplane hangar that I hit about 30 miles an hour.
Wow.
And my world goes black. I pass out from all the catastrophic injuries. The first people on scene are trying to figure out if I'm okay or not, or if I'm alive.
Yeah.
And they ask me, like, Jason, are you okay? And I see blood coming out of my mouth and my nose, and body parts bent in wrong directions.
Yeah.
And the first thing I say is, I'll be okay, just give me a minute. Don't call anyone.
Don't call anyone.
And it was just defaults, like in your moments of crisis, you'll default to exactly what you built yourself into.
Yeah.
And I was in bad not accidents, but situations in the mountains before where I've almost been swept off the mountains by an avalanche, 10 toes of frostbite, and so my body was just like, you have to fight. You're not in a good situation. And my heart, when I hit that building, I hit so hard, my heart went from the left side of my chest to the right side of my chest and was all twisted up.
Oh, boy.
So they airlifted me to St. Anthony's down in Lakewood for life-saving surgery.
And let's talk about the injuries, because it wasn't just your heart, which, by the way, the heart thing, that could have killed you. And it would have killed most people, probably, right? But you had, on your left side, 10 of 12 broken ribs, I think.
Yep.
Tell me about all the broken bones and everything else you had.
Yeah, left femur, pelvis in the front and the back, right wrist, left elbow is dislocated and fractured. 11 total ribs, and then 3 total organs that were badly injured. And the doctor said with the heart, he's like, we've never done this surgery on anyone before because no one comes in alive. Usually when your heart moves that far across your body, it's instant death.
Yeah.
So, it's a level 1 trauma center, so they take care of the worst of the worst. So when you get woken up from a coma because they put me in a coma for 8 days to protect me, and the first thing you hear is, you shouldn't be alive.
Yeah.
It's an odd way to wake up.
I'll bet. So you're in a coma for 8 days. You're intubated even, right? They're
Yes.
breathing for you. And was there any point in that where you thought you weren't going to make it?
Well, during that 8 days, I was visited by hundreds and hundreds of nightmares. They're trying to convince me to give up. So I'm fighting all this imagery of, like, do I deserve to live? I mean, and when you're in a coma, you don't know you're in a coma. You're just in this dark, awful place.
Yeah.
And I just, after a while, I'm just like, I think this is just temptation and I need to fight through. And if I keep on fighting through, eventually I'm going to get somewhere.
Yeah.
And eventually I yelled out, I said, if you're going to kill me, you better kill me now. And if you can't kill me now, you can't kill me later because I'm coming back strong from all this. And the next thing I know, I see this bright light in my eyes, and I'm opening my eyes, and I realize I'm in a hospital, and it feels like someone's standing on my chest because there's so much pressure from the heart surgery and them having to open me up.
Yeah.
And then that's when the doctor says, you're lucky to be alive. And I look at him and say, thank you for helping me. And I slowly reach up my hand and give him a high five. And he gives me an odd look, like, who are you and what are you doing?
What are you doing? So you had a concussion too. How long total were you in the hospital?
3.5 months.
3.5 months. Wow. and recovery, I'm sure even after that, was long and arduous. And this is difficult, especially because you're a highly trained athlete, and you're used to running Ironmans and all that, right? Tell me about that.
Yeah, I've done 5 Ironmans, climbed lots of mountains across Colorado and in the West.
Yeah.
So super active, but all those things I realized, well, I didn't realize at the time when I'm doing them, all train me up until this day to be able to survive this.
Okay.
Because with the doctors, when I'm in the coma, they're staring at me, and my friend's in the room on day 2, and the doctor won't stop staring at me, and my friend's freaking out because, well, she's already freaked out because of what just happened to me. She's like, why are you staring at him? Is something bad about to happen? And he goes, no, I can't understand how he's alive. Can you tell me more about what this guy does?
Yeah.
And oddly enough, I was preparing my whole life for something I never knew was going to happen. Yeah. And all those things, the Ironman triathlons and climbing, just put me in a really disciplined state where I understood how to overcome difficult things in my life.
I was going to ask you about that. So do you feel like had you not done the Ironmans, had you not been so trained and prepared as an athlete, that maybe you wouldn't have survived this?
Yeah, 100%.
Really?
Yeah. When I first woke up from the coma, the first thing my dad said to me was, and I didn't understand at the time, he goes, this is going to be just like training for one of your races. Yeah. And it took me a couple weeks to understand it, and after the medications kind of drained out of my body, and I said, okay, you don't, when you have a big goal, you don't accomplish it in one day. It's just chip away one day at a time, very small things. So that first, I had to lay in bed for 2.5 months and couldn't move except my hand like this. Yeah. So it was like, I need to find something to do every day, and if I do that, it's going to compound over time, and there'll be huge results in the end.
So yeah, tell me about that. What did that rehab look like? You're in the hospital, you can't move for most of the time you're there. How do you eventually get your way back to sort of the physical shape that you were in before, and eventually run another race within a year of the accident, right?
Yeah.
Tell me
so, I mean, laying in the bed was, I would say, is the hardest thing I ever went through, because you can't move. You don't feel like you could do anything for yourself. So, and I was definitely down at first. And then I say, okay, find something to do. Then eventually, after 3 months, they x-ray me and say, okay, you're healed enough. We'll let you put some weight on your legs. Yeah. Once that happened, took off, because I felt like I was back in control. And first day it's just a couple steps. Next day I'm just like a little bit further every single day. Yeah. About 6 months after, I started to run for the first time. Call it more like waddling than running, because I'm like dragging a leg behind me. Yeah. But the doctor said I would never run again. And at the 3-month mark, because that was the first question I asked her, I was like, when do I get to run again? He goes, I don't think you understand the severity of injuries. You don't get to run again. Right. And I was like, he didn't realize. A week after I woke up from the coma, I was like, I'm going to race in a triathlon, because that means my arms work, my body works, my heart works again. Yeah. And so he didn't realize that was my goal, and I let him get. I was like, now this is a guy I'm going to prove wrong. And yeah, one day short of the 1-year anniversary, I raced in a triathlon and proved the doctor wrong, and it was really a gift back to all the people that helped me all along the way. Yeah. Because I was just like, they see so many terrible things in those hospitals, and it's such a heavy weight on their shoulders, because they talk to me about it all the time when I'm laying in that hospital. Yeah. I was like, I had to give them something good to see, and I was like, I was honoring them by doing it. So it wasn't just about me. At first it was just about me. Then it's like, when you have a purpose beyond yourself, you have strength beyond your own strength. Yeah. So all those people were with me when I was racing.
Wow, interesting way to look at it for sure. We're having a Colorado conversation with Jason Dennen. He survived a skydiving accident that he says actually was the best thing that ever happened to him, if you can believe that. And we'll keep the conversation going right after this. And we are back having a Colorado conversation with Jason Dennen, skydiving accident survivor, who's gone on to do some pretty amazing things since then. So we talked about this. The accident happened in 2018. It threw him for a loop, kept him in the hospital for 3 months, broke a lot of bones, and damaged your heart. But yet a year later, there you were running a triathlon, taking part in that competition. You talked a lot about how family, faith, and friends got you through all this. And let's talk about that. How so?
Yeah. Well, I would say faith is number one, right? Yeah. When you have the good Lord looking out for you, there's nothing you can't do. And my family were so supportive. So I'm from the East Coast. So my parents get the call, your son might not live. They fly out immediately, and they're with me every single day in the hospital, which is amazing, because I felt tremendous guilt from, I chose to jump out of the plane all those hundreds of times, and now I crash and they have to deal with this. I mean, I can't imagine what it must have been like when they walked in and saw me in a coma for the first time, and where they had to tell the rest of my family that I might not live. So my mom is a cancer survivor, or she's passed away a couple years ago, but from 41 to 75, she had multiple bouts of radiation and cancer. So when I saw her every day, I never heard her complain once when she went through all that. I was like, she was a model of how I need to live my life and how I need to come back from this and push forward.
And your mom made you make one promise to her when you were in the hospital. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I couldn't walk or move at this point, and she walks up one day and she says, she's like, can you promise me one thing? And I was like, this is going to be big. And she said, can you not skydive anymore and put us through this? And I was just like, I could see she thought that was on my mind, that my first goal was to jump again.
Right.
I was so destroyed my body. I was like, my first goal was just to make my body work again. And that's why I chose the triathlon, because you can't hide any part of your body to finish the triathlon. So I kept my promise. I've never jumped again. I never told her I wouldn't climb mountains. I didn't tell her I would ride motorcycles. I've done that. So I kept my promise. I just use other outlets to challenge myself.
Good for you. Okay, very good. Kept your word. I want to talk more about that first triathlon. It was about a year after the accident itself. How physically challenging was it? Were there times when you thought, I'm not going to get through this? What kept you going?
Yeah. Well, the training was challenging just because when I decided to do it, and it was only 3 months out from the triathlon, I couldn't run very far. I hadn't ridden my bike yet. I'd had extra surgeries on my elbow where they basically had to re-break my elbow. So I didn't realize my elbow could really handle the pressure of swimming. So I go into it without knowing if it's possible. I said, I don't know, well, I'll chip away one day at a time and see what happens. So as I'm going through it, I remember I swim in the lake for the first time about 3 weeks out from the race. I can't complete the distance. I'm going through panic attacks. My heart feels like it's coming out of my chest. The first time I try to run the race distance without doing the swim and bike first, I fail because I can't do it. And every failure just said, okay, I need to change my plan of action if I'm ever going to get there. So I start changing things, and it just and every failure was almost more fuel to finish it. And I had to test myself along the way, because if you don't test yourself along the way, you have no idea if you can accomplish it on race day or if you need to change your training. So I got myself to fail on purpose to see where I'm weak and where I need to change. And then eventually on the race day, it was hard, and it was the worst conditions I've ever raced in. It was 46 degrees, even though it was the end of June. Torrential rain's coming. Half the race field doesn't bother showing up because the conditions are so bad.
Wow.
So it was challenging. I lost feeling in my hands and my feet during the race. But like I said, all those people were behind me. I was like, I need to do this for them because they helped me in such an amazing way. This is some small payback I could give to them.
Was this the most rewarding finish line that you ever crossed?
Yeah, it was. It was. Yeah, totally unexpected. And if you look back 364 days before that, I was like, I had no idea all of this was going to happen, or the race, the crash, and all this, and my life was turned upside down. But I always say it's the greatest gift that ever given to me, because I got to reassess my entire life. And for 10 weeks, I wasn't allowed to move, and it was the hardest thing I ever went through, but it was the best thing I ever went through. I mean, my life has been amazing, but I didn't think about all the amazing things. I thought all the things that I came up short in my life and I wasn't great at. And you keep on going. So how do I get better from this? How do I make this accident make me a better person and become better and have a greater purpose? Because I was working a lot of hours before that accident, and I was just like, I felt like I lost purpose in life a little bit. And this put everything back in focus on why I'm on this earth and what I can do to help other people.
Well, let's talk about that reassessment. What did you discover about yourself, and what changed tangibly after that crash?
Yeah. Well, one of the things I learned is my best character trait is also my worst character trait. And that's like, I could put my head down and get anything done. Now, that can serve you in rehab and other things in life, but it also can destroy you, because I was working 13, 14 hours a day. I wasn't spending enough time with family and friends. And you have to, as I'm laying there, I'm like, you have to control it. You have to use it when it serves you, but you can't go down that road, because when I woke up from the coma, the first thing I regretted, I wasn't spending enough time with family and friends. And I'm just like, I could have died and left my life like this. And that's a terrible feeling.
Do you ever catch yourself going back to those old habits, though, doing the things that you were doing before the crash that you wish you hadn't been?
Well, I have a scar that goes from my collarbone all the way to my belt line, where they opened up my chest and diaphragm and everything. And I see that every single morning in the mirror when I'm getting dressed, and I look at it and say, remember, what happens when you go off the road in the path you don't want to go off? You'll regret it. So it reminds me every day, don't go off that other path. You might be off path for a day or two, but pull yourself back on. You don't want to be in that place again. You know what regret feels like.
Yeah, it's a good point. We're having a Colorado conversation with Jason Dennen, who was in a skydiving accident, says it was the best thing that ever happened to him, changed his perspective and his life. We'll talk more about that and the book he wrote about all this when we come back here on Colorado Conversations. Back now with our final few moments with Jason Dennen, who wrote a book about his experience in a skydiving accident back in 2018 that nearly killed him, but instead, I think now he probably feels more alive than you ever have because of what happened that day. So you wrote this book, Jason. It's called 8 Days Till Sunrise. Yep. Tell me about it and what was the catalyst for it and what do you hope people take away from it?
Yeah, so it goes from the journey of day one when I wake up and get into that crash and all of the lessons learned along the way. And really the whole purpose of the book is try to help someone else get through their toughest time in their own lives. Because I realized in the journey, as I start telling the story, and it starts as people coming into my hospital room from the hospital and asking me, you know, what happened and what you learned from it. Yeah. And I realized early on, at first, it was hard to tell because you're reliving the toughest time in your life over and over again. But I realized, I was like, no, this isn't a burden to tell a story. It's a gift. Because every time I told the story, a person would start opening up about their lives to me in a way I would have never been able to open them up unless I went through the hardest thing in my life first. So I realized the power of the story and the power that people will open up to you when you're willing to bare your heart with them. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I think this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to share the story. I'm supposed to help people through their greatest challenges. And maybe I have something to offer because of what I went through. And so the book's really about all the lessons I learned along the way that can help you get through your most difficult challenges and the ups and downs and the difficulties of breaking through barriers.
Do you look now at every day as a gift? Is that still that fresh for you? Like, wow, I'm lucky to be here and I got to make the most of this.
I always say the colors of the sky, the sun, the sunrise is always brighter. When I'm hiking, I'm like, things didn't seem as bright as they are before. So you appreciate it in a whole different way. I might not be able to go as fast on these hikes and things like this, but I'm like, I was like, I may have never ever been able to do this again. And it's a gift that I get to do it again. So I don't take it for granted maybe as much as I did before because it was kind of a given before. Now it's like, it may, you know, it's just an amazing gift. So I love it. I mean, every day is definitely a gift.
And do you do public speaking? You go around talking about this?
Yeah, I do speak a lot to anything from corporations to student groups to, you know, nonprofits, whoever, you know, I think are willing to open their doors and hear a message to try to help them get through their toughest times.
And your message to them is probably not, you know, don't take chances, right? No. Because you love to take chances and still do, I'm guessing. What is it? It's just value everything that happens to you after something bad comes along. Is that it?
Well, I think when people are going through overwhelming situations, oftentimes they can be taken over by emotion, and it seems overwhelming and they can't get through things. So what I preach is really a framework of how to get yourself out of that emotional state and into these 6 steps of how to get through your toughest time. Okay. So I think it's exploring that, you know, from building a strong foundation to have a big why. Because if you're ever going to get through something tough, it has to be more than just for you. And that's what's really going to drive you forward to get through these really difficult things. So it's really just sharing my story and how I use all of this framework to get through the toughest time and how that person can get through their toughest time by using that those same principles.
And you lay out those 6 steps in the book, so we can read them there. Yeah. You know, you talked about how faith is important to you. Was there any point in the hospital when you're laying there, not sure if you're going to make it or not, or when you're sort of feeling sad for yourself that things will never quite be the same they were before? Was there any point in any of that where you questioned your faith or not?
Never.
Never.
No. I just said this happened for a reason. It was. I mean, I got saved and I shouldn't have lived because people. You don't realize that until doctors start telling you that because you have nothing to compare it to. Right. When a heart doctor says you shouldn't be alive, and you're like, wow, that's something you don't realize how far or how close you were to dying. No, I mean, faith is just, it increased. Said, well, I guess I was saved for a reason. What do I do with it now? Don't waste your second chance because not everybody gets a second chance. Because there were skydivers after me within the next couple months that died. And I said, we were doing the same thing. Why did I get to live and why did they not? And when I went to revisit the field where I crashed into the building and saw the dent again, I was like, I owe it to those people and everybody else to do something with us because I got to live and don't waste it. And every day I look out, I was like, time's running out. You better help someone. Live what you said you were going to live when you were laying in that hospital bed. Yeah. Now it's time to execute and help people.
Tell me more about that, going back to the site, seeing the dent in the building. Did that really drive it home for you, what you'd been through?
Yeah, I visited the people at the skydiving school and thanked them because they were amazing. And then I was like, don't avoid the field. Go over and walk to it. And I was by myself, and I'm seeing, I see where the fence where I went through, it's still laying there, the big dent in the building. And I look across that field where those skydivers after me had passed away, and I look at it and go, it was certainly heavy, but I was just like, now you have work to do. So it was encouraging, and it's like I owe something.
You ever miss the thrill of jumping out of an airplane?
Sure, sometimes.
Yeah.
People ask me all the time. They're like, "Would you skydive?" I was like, "Yeah, it's fun. It's awesome." I'm like, something bad happened to me, but it's like this isn't like a cautionary tale of you shouldn't do this or shouldn't take chances. I continue to take chances because if I don't take chances, who am I to tell anybody else like, overcome your challenges? And I'm sitting on the couch and not doing anything. It's like, no, you got to keep on living the same life. One of the nurses in the hospital said to me before I left, he goes, don't stop doing the things you like to do because you'll regret it. I know how you are, and I know what you like to do. Don't stop being you. Yeah. And I think about that all the time.
Yeah. Has this made a perspective change for you? Does it put all your other problems in perspective? What you've been through now, does everything seem kind of small after that?
Yeah, to a certain degree. Yeah. I mean, someone said to me after the accident, they're like, well, everything's going to be easy from now on. I was like, no, someone didn't hand me a $10 million check after this. I was like, right. I still have to go through difficult things. Yeah. I was like, you're more prepared for it, and it does put it in perspective. You're like, that's small. Yeah. You're not going to die over that. Yeah. Versus, but or people when people complain about things, I was kind of like, is that really worth complaining about? I was like, it's pretty small.
Yeah, not a big deal. Yeah. So try laying in the hospital for 3 months. That's a big deal, right? No doubt about it. The book again is 8 Days Till Sunrise. People can get it on Amazon.
Amazon, anywhere books are sold.
Yeah. Very good. It's a great story and a great sort of idea about second chances and how you can make the most of them. And I'm just honored, Jason, that you shared your story with us because I'm fascinated by it. I've always been fascinated with skydiving, too, and I've wanted to do it, much to my wife's chagrin. After this interview, I might not. I don't know. But we'll see. I might do it still because I think the thrill sounds pretty amazing. And, like you said, take chances, right?
Let me know if you do. I'll high-five you when you land on the ground.
Okay, very good. You won't jump with me. For sure.
No, my jumping's over.
Your jumping days are over. Okay, Jason Dennen, we thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Colorado Conversations. You get that book on Amazon.com or wherever books are sold. And we're back with a brand new episode of Colorado Conversations streaming here on Fox 31 Plus tomorrow at noon and 8 p.m. Thanks for joining us.